on KBC Channel 1.
She's different.
Not so bad.
Oh, you like her like that?
What do you expect from me? If she likes being this chirpy,
Mary Poppins.
whoever she is, it's fine with me.
I'm trying to juggle something in him.
Intimidating son.
The one thing they all agree on is that you don't lie to someone with memory loss.
We want lying to her. We want her to figure things out on her
It's
own.
misleading her. We'll never get her back at this rate.
Confronting her with the past just freaks her out.
I know we used to fight over things, but I would rather have a good fight with the old Julia than spend even a minute with this one.
Tunakupa burudani.
Na umbea, yani stories zinazo trend kwenye mitandao ya kijamii.
See baby, now we are doing one. We are doing one.
Interview kali za wasanii wapendao.
Mguu pande panda milima. Izungushia hapo ma. Kama una
Ndani ya March of Life kupitia KBC Channel 1 na Pwani FM.
Kuanzia mida ya saa 3 mpaka mida ya 5 kamili asubuhi. Ukiwa nami ni Ken 1GB.
Mimi ni Marco. Keep it locked.
whom you have been pleased to call to performance of important trust in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat, consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just faith and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you've committed to our charge. Amen. Having confirmed that between the members who are in the chamber and those in the holding areas, we form required quorum, the business will begin.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Under that particular order, we have the leader of Majority Party and the chairperson, Environment and Natural Resources. So we'll start with the Majority Leader. Okay, the chairperson, Environment and Natural Resources Committee, Honorable Kareke Mbiuki. Are you in the house? Yes, I see you. Proceed, Honorable Mbiuki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, that's the September 17, 2020. The report of the Departmental Committee on the Environment and Natural Resource on its consideration of petition regarding the completion of the Wanyama Water Dam project in Nakuru East constituency. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Is the leader majority in, or anybody holding brief for the majority leader? Then what we will do, because I'm aware majority leader was committed on some issues, as soon as he comes, we'll allow him to table those papers. Unless we'll have gone too far, then we'll allow him to do it in the afternoon. So let's proceed.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Under this particular order, we have ordinary questions. And to start us off is a member for Isiolo South, Honorable Abdi Tepo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to ask question number 156 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Environment and Forestry. Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the steps being undertaken by the Ministry to address the diminishing water levels in rivers, in particular River Bisanadi in Isiolo South constituency? 2, what action has the Ministry taken against upstream water consumers who are using water extensively without any regard to those downstream, and by when? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. Next is the question by the member for Lamu East, Honorable Sharif Adman Ali, on his own request, and I accede is deferred. Next will be the member for Malindi, Honorable Aisha Jumwa.
Yes.
And the honorable members, I see there is a lot of anxiety. Members, the reason why you are sitting slightly closer to each other today is that the sitting arrangement has been reviewed as per the order and agreement with the public health person. So don't have to really worry. It's much closer than it was before. So Honorable Aisha, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to ask the following question to the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. With regard to the conceptualization of and development of the Galana Kulalu irrigation project, which cuts across Kilifi and Tana River counties, why did the government proceed to lease land from residents without undertaking public participation and stakeholder engagements as provided for in Article 118 and 232 of the Constitution? In which aspect has the national government engaged the Kilifi and Tana River counties in the project, especially with regard to employment opportunities, research and infrastructural development? Could the national government consider handing over the implementation of the project to the 2 county governments, considering that agriculture is a devolved function? Could the Cabinet Secretary provide a report on the status of the project with regard to its viability, funds spent from inception to date, trials and actual production of crops, any feasibility and related studies conducted so far, including involvement of Green Araya Limited Company from Israel? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Committee on Agriculture and Livestock.
Thank you.
So the next one is by the member for Laisamis, Honorable Arbele Marcelino Malimo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask a question number 188 of 2020 My question is directed to the Teacher Service Commission. The question reads, what criteria is used by the Teacher Service Commission during the localization of teachers in the country? Number two, what measures are in place to ensure that the process is carried out in a fair and transparent manner? Number three, why is the Commission not delocalizing officers of the TSC Secretariat who have overstayed in one station, in particular, the staffing officer at Laisami Sub-County Headquarters, who has served for more than 9 years in the same station? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before. That's for a written reply by the Teachers Service Commission. So we go to the next one, the member for Lamu West. That is the Honorable Stanley Mudhama. Is he in? Honorable Stanley Mudhama. That one will go to the next one. Let's have the member for Alego Usonga, Honorable Samuel Atandi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question number 200 of 2020, and my question is directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury and National Planning. The first question is, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the status of the emergency liquidity facility which was created following the collapse of Imperial Bank and Chase Bank to bail out those banks that were facing liquidity challenges, and confirm whether the facility is still in existence and how many banks have so far benefited from this facility? Question two, could the Cabinet Secretary also report on the status of the forensic audit which was being conducted following the collapse of Imperial Bank? The third question is, how was the firms engaged in the forensic audit identified and procured? And the last question is, what were the specific terms of engagement of the firms conducting the forensic audit, and are they being paid by the public through the Central Bank of Kenya? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. That will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. And that marks the end of question time. And honorable members, now that we are seated very close to each other, closer than before, members are strongly advised, very strongly advised, to put on their masks. And I am having a specific case in mind, the Honorable Dr. Wamalwa. The Honorable Dr. Wamalwa here and others, you must be putting on a mask. We are closer than was before. And I understand, Honorable Wamalwa, you are not used to that because you know you are the soloist in the previous, but you know there is no soloist. You cannot be a soloist here. You can only be. So, and there is also another member there, and really, I see a few members. Members must put on their masks. It is good for them. And if they don't feel that it should be good for them, let it be good for others. So, honorable members will be very strict on that one. In fact, for any member who will not be using the mask will not catch the speakers, I can assure you. I can assure you. Because I would not want to give an opportunity to a member to speak without a mask and therefore spit the saliva all over. So, honorable members, we'll proceed now to... Is the member for Lamu West in? Yes, please proceed, honorable member for Lamu West. Honorable Mudhama. Oh, you are the one who was not having a mask. Now you have it now.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask a question regarding development issues in Lamu. And I would ask, could the Cabinet Minister explain the status of renovation of Manda Airport in Lamu West constituency, considering that the currently deplorable state, particularly the taxiways, the apron facility, the general airport infrastructure, which has not been having any improvement for quite a long time.
Excuse
Could
me,
he also?
the Honorable Mudama.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
I just want you to read the question as is. The explanations and other matters will be, canvassed at the committees when the question will be answered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The second question is, could the Cabinet Secretary also explain whether the poor state of airport that led to the recent withdrawal of Jambojet and other regional airlines from flying to Lamu, what specific plans are there to expand the airport, including connecting it to the national electricity grid, in a bid to cater for larger capacity airplanes and the expected air traffic as a result of full development of Lamu LAPSET project? Could the ministry consider extending operational hours of the airport from the current 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. schedule in order to accommodate the anticipated highlighted demand for air travel following the completion of LAPSET project, as well as for the handling emergency evacuation that may arise from time to time? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That one will be replied to before the committee on Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works, and Housing. So we go. I'm now trying to. What is it? I see a member who wants to say something. And who is that? Is that Jomo? Honorable Ashali?
Yes.
What is it?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise and seek for your indulgence on question number 186.
186.
186,
which one is that?
asked by Honorable Aisha Jumwa.
Yes.
Even though here it's written Aisha Juma, but the correct name is Aisha Jumwa.
How do you know it, Honorable? You are neither Aisha nor are you Juma.
Yes, I know her very well.
Really?
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to ask, because I've been a member of the Committee on Environment, and from the presidential order, this project that Aisha Jumwa was asking, Galana Gulalu, was at one point under the Ministry of Agriculture. But as we speak now, the Department of Irrigation is under water, the Ministry of Water. I was just seeking your indulgence if maybe this question may have been referred to a wrong committee, so that it is redirected to the correct committee, which is the Committee of Environment, whose chair is here, so that maybe it could be tackled within record time.
You have a point. You really have a point, that one, Honorable Member. But I think since we have already, placed it before the Departmental Committee on Agriculture, this really is an irrigation project, but it still has some components of agriculture. Let it just proceed. And in any case, the member did not seem to have a problem with it. Should we have an issue from the CS, the specific CS, asking that it be redirected, that one will consider. But for now, I think it can be sufficiently handled by that particular departmental committee. I think that would be fine. Unless the chair, environment, has an issue with it, because it's something that can be quickly dispensed with. What is your take, Honorable Kareke Mbiuki?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, following...
I will take about, in fact, let me hear what you have to say, and then I'll give about two members to and take their view, and then we'll make a decision quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, following the point of order by Honorable Washiali, I would like to add that equally the Speaker of this House directed that all the matters to do with irrigation are oversighted by the Committee of Environment and Natural Resource. And what basically Ms. Maisha has asked falls squarely under the implementation of Galana Kulalu irrigation project, which is being undertaken by National Irrigation Authority, which falls under the Ministry of Water, Irrigation and Sanitation, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, without my humble request is that this question may go to the Committee of Agriculture, and then it will take a lot of time. By the time it is directed, you have wasted a lot of
Agreed.
time.
I hear you.
Thank
Let
you,
me
Mr.
give
Speaker.
that member at the very end there. Yes. I might need to get some aid to get to know who you are. Ali Wario, let's hear what you have to say. Honorable Wario.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also raise to support Honorable Aisha. Galana Kulalu, Galana means a river. Galana Kulalu, 80% is in my constituency, Mr. Speaker. And Galana has turned to be a white elephant project, Mr. Speaker. Galana.
Now you know what you are doing, Honorable Wario.
No, I have a point, Mr.
You're actually canvassing. I really want you to speak to this specific thing.
Yes.
On whether we are taking it to irrigation or remain in agriculture.
Yes, Galana Kulalu belongs to the ADC, Agricultural Development Corporation. So that land is almost 1.4 million acres, Mr. Speaker. So
your suggestion is that it remains in agriculture?
Yes, because ADC is squarely by act of parliament, which squarely lies in the Ministry of Agriculture. But NIB, which has taken part of the land, is actually in that land which belongs to ADC, Mr. Speaker.
Now that clarifies my mind completely. In fact, I don't need to have any other member speak to it. Now, what you have said...
And it is in my constituency, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I hear you. What you have said, Honorable Wario,
yes,
is that the NIB has taken over the project, but the land belongs to ADC. Now, my thinking is that since it is NIB which has taken over the project, we will not be discussing issues to do with land. It's about the component of irrigation. So the best thing is for us to refer to the Committee on Environment. And I think it's just as straightforward as that. So let's proceed to the next. Before we proceed to the next, what is your point of order again? On which other matter again now? What is out of order? Honorable Makali. Honorable Makali, I see your card is here, yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I was also seeking for your indulgence in terms of these questions we keep on asking in this House. Honorable Speaker, the third session, I did ask a question relating to the M&D policy in this country. And you did direct that the Committee on Finance and Planning take over the matter.
Did you say M&D, which is monitoring and evaluation?
Yeah, policy in this country. Up to now, Honorable Speaker, I have not been able to get any answer to that question.
When did you ask that particular question?
And I'm worried, Honorable Speaker.
Is it a question you asked or a statement?
It was a question.
A question.
And Honorable Speaker, I'm getting worried. We are now almost getting to the end of the fourth session. And there are high chances that I may not get an answer.
Would you remember when you placed the question?
Yeah, actually it was the fifth question in this 2020. The fifth question.
Okay.
And Honorable Speaker, the issue was I wanted to know the status of the monetary evaluation policy in this country. Why has it not been concluded? What strategies are in place to conclude it so that this country can have that important policy?
Okay, that is, I'm told you actually asked the question in March.
Yeah, actually, just the start of the session.
Okay, and I see Honorable Wanga. Honorable Gladys Wanga, as usual, of course, violating some straightforward rules here. Honorable Wanga, you know the one I'm talking about, of social distancing. Now it is even more critical now. I think I just want to ask of you, are you able to, would you have an idea what the problem is with the question which was asked by Honorable Makali Mulu on the policy on monitoring and evaluation? Do you have an idea? If you really don't have a good idea on it, we could give you time to look at it and know where the issue is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And My apologies. I was actually passing nearby the other member. That's when your eye caught me, just when I was passing. So I did not intend in any way to violate the COVID rules. Mr. Speaker, I'm law-abiding. On the matter of Honorable Makali, I'm going to just go over and have a conversation with him so that I can have a good idea, and I will definitely come back with feedback. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That's a very good way of handling it. And actually, should it be, you don't even need to report back. If that matter can be, dealt with, I think Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu will be happy. Now, on the issue of you having been caught on the wrong side, it seemed to be a bit unlucky recently. You have been caught a few times. But it's not you who normally violates it. It's others who violate against you. But this morning, you are the one who actually violated it. And I would easily understand the first one, but I can't understand the second one of today. But anyway, that is an issue for another day. I'm just urging members to keep safe distance and keep your mask on until otherwise advised by the authorities concerned. So let's proceed. We'll have the leader of majority tabling documents now that he's in, so that we are able to move to other matters.
Honorable Speaker, thanks for this opportunity. I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, that's this September 17th, 2020, in the morning sitting. One is the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements in respect to the following institutions for the year ended 30th of June 2019 and the certificates therein. The first one is the Kenya Towns Sustainable Water Supply and Sanitation Program, formerly referred to as the Tana Water Services Board, ADB loan number 20002000000501. And B, the Unclaimed Financial Assets Trust Fund. C, the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. And D, the Local Authorities Provident Fund. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. And so what is it, Honorable Gikaria?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Maybe, actually, it is just before when we were doing the questions, and I wanted to ask, Honorable Speaker, what is the role of Committee on Implementation on matters of asking questions and where questions have been answered by respective ministries and commitments have been done by the executive and it is never taken? And that is, I would want to, maybe, Honorable Speaker, you give a directive on what is the role on Committee on Implementation on commitments done by executive and it's not done. And I'm saying this because I've asked quite a number of questions which have already been answered to. One particularly was in the Committee of Environment, where I was asking about some water pan. Commitments were done by the ministry. They promised to be there within the reasonable time, but to date, they have never even showed up. So I don't know what is because then it will only mean that Honorable Speaker will be asking questions, then commitments are done and it is never taken.
Now, the chair on implementation committee is in the House, but even on the face of it, mostly what the Committee on Implementation does is especially on the resolutions of the House. Now, of course, they always do even the other one, but mostly it's about the resolutions of the House. But the chair, are you having an issue on your mandate, like that specific case which is being asked for by Honorable Gikaria?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. In fact, Honorable Speaker, I'd like to let the members know that we have tabled several reports that encompasses all ministries. And I'll advise the members to go to the table room and peruse those reports. If you do not find anything to do with what you have asked, then you can approach me and I'll take care of it.
Well, that I think Honorable Gikaria is as clear as it is. The chair has said You look at whether anything has been done. If it has not been done,
Yes,
he
let me
is
just-
available.
Honorable Speaker, I wanted to add something.
Yes.
Unfortunately, though we have been tabling reports, the House Business Committee has not taken any steps to list them for actually debate. And they have even written a letter to the State Committee to ensure that they expedite the listing of these reports.
That one will be handled on.
And I think that should be done. Thank
That
you,
will be
Honorable Speaker.
handled. That will be handled.
Yeah.
So there was a statement. Now we go to the statement request that had been made by Honorable Lydia Haika Mizigi. That was before the Environment and Natural Resources Committee. Is Honorable Mbiuki ready? I think he should be.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to give the response on the statement sought by the Honorable India Aika, the Member of Parliament for Taita Taveta constituency regarding the incessant fires in the Tsavo National Park and other parks in the country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Member for Taita Taveta County, Honorable India Aika MP, sought the statement regarding the incessant fires in the Tsavo National Park and other parks in the country, pursuant to Standing Order number 44-2C. She specifically sought the following in her statement. 1, explanation of the surging cases of incessant fires across the national parks in the country, and in particular the Tsavo National Park, that has led to the destruction of more than 4,000 acres of vegetation, owing to the fact that the said forest is inhabited by thousands of wildlife species. 2, the causes of these fires and how the ministry is handling them. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the measures that the ministry has put in place to ensure the situation is contained and that the incidences do not occur in future. Mr. Speaker, the Committee of Environment and Natural Resources at a meeting with the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism and Wildlife on Monday, 7th September 2020, to deliberate on the statement by the Honorable Aika. The ministry submitted its responses to the issues raised by the Honorable Member and
Order,
stated...
order, Honorable Kositany. Order. Proceed, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the ministry submitted its response on the issues raised by the Honorable Aika and stated that Tsavo has received in the past year 2019 April to 2020 continuous and evidence that led to accumulation of green biomass that returned during the dry spell became dry mass, which is highly inflammable, Mr. Speaker. This, combined with the prevailing strong winds, exacerbated the fires. Mr. Speaker, inaccessibility of the burning site due to rough terrain worsened the situation, and lack or inadequate fire gears, that is the fire engine, the helicopters, the bulldozers, and manpower, aggravated further the situation. Mr. Speaker, on the probable causes of fire, the ministry listed the following causes of fire, which included 1, arson by inflated cattle herders who are driven from protected area by the authorities. 2, we have the poachers, basically the bush meat, for the bush meat. 3, harvesters, as is the case with Chulu Eus National Park. And 4, individual accidentally who, due to unextinguished cigarette burns left carelessly or intentionally. Mr. Speaker, the measures put in place by the ministry to control the fires and stopping it from happening in future, the ministry indicated that it had undertaken the following measures. 1, collaborating with the stakeholders and partners of Tsavo Conservation Area creation that have created fire breaks along the park boundaries and especially adjacent to the community area. B, collaborating with the Ministry of Interior in working closely with the county government of Taita Taveta, the Kenyan Defence Forces, and the Ministry of Defence has provided helicopters to fight these fires. The National Youth Service, Kazi kwa Vijana Initiative, a standby team in case of any fire outbreak. C, collaborating with other government agencies, conservation partners in conducting education and awareness campaign in dangers caused by fires on wildlife and general livelihood of the community. D, Mr. Speaker, collaborating with relevant government law enforcers in undertaking investigation to determine the root cause of these fires if arsonists are involved. And D, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry has tasked the Kenya Wildlife Service to collect baseline information on the affected flora and fauna and advise appropriately on the same. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry is also at initial stages of coming up with fire station in Savo landscape. Mr. Speaker, in summary, the Savo East National Park experienced 4 fires that has consumed a total of 51.4 square kilometers. Savo West National Park had 4 fires that burnt a total area of 415.4 square kilometers, and Chuluel National Park was affected by 7 fires that affected an area of 0.54 kilometers. Mr. Speaker, most of the fires emanated from outside the park, except for one that started inside the parks. A high biomass of dry grass and herbs and strong wind made the fire to burn intensely and difficult to contain. Mr. Speaker, the management of Savo Conservation Area mobilized government agencies, partners and stakeholders, and the local community who assisted in fighting the fires. Most of the fires were contained within several hours, with the exception of Rialenyi fire inside Savo West National Park that took close to 2 days to extinguish, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to mitigate these fires, KWS will henceforth, 1, ensure fire breaks along the boundaries of the national park are cleared to buffer the parks from outside fires. 2, carry out community outreach to sensitize and educate the public about not setting fires close to the boundaries of the park. And 3, to take legal action against individuals who set fires in the park. And 4, ensure adequate preparedness during the fire session. Mr. Speaker, the ministry noted that record of fire in national parks stretched way back as 1932. An analysis of the fires depict a pattern where parks experienced 2 fire seasons, basically in January to March and July to September of every year. This makes preparedness during the fire season critical to prevent fire occurrences and to contain any fires that might arise in the future. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I submit.
Very well. So let's hear, let's have Honorable Haika. You don't have a card, Honorable Haika?
I do.
Okay, then why is it not indicated here? But proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to comment on the statement that I had requested. And from the onset, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate the committee for the work well done. And I want to say that I didn't get a chance to join the committee when the CS was giving the feedback, Mr. Speaker, but I thank you and I appreciate the committee because they looked for me and I got the report on time. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, I have gone through the report and the report is pleasing. The report is good. Mr. Speaker, what I have to say is that now the relevant ministry has to work with speed on the implementation of the report, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
And Mr. Speaker, I want to say this because when such fires occur, most of these wild animals tend to move. They vacate the park and they go to people's farms, Mr. Speaker. And when it happens like this, Mr. Speaker, many crops are damaged and at times we even lose life. And compensation is really a problem. In my case of Taita Taveta, we have lots of these cases of wildlife conflicts, Mr. Speaker, and they have not been compensated. So, Mr. Speaker, I will urge the relevant ministry to walk the talk and do what is needful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Honorable Haika, in English they say speaking from both sides of the mouth, you know. On the one hand, you are completely satisfied. But on the other hand, you are also still raising issues. But that is, I think you are more satisfied with the mechanism of how the committee handled the matter. But of course, as for the results, you are still giving them a challenge that they could move faster. Yeah, so I want to give just 2 or 3 other members to, you know, seek clarifications. Is Honorable Wamalwa, is this because you are top here?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I listened carefully when the chairman presented. And one of the issues he raised, Mr. Speaker, that the fire emanated from outside. How I had wished him to say, did they probe further to understand, even if it came from outside, at least you needed to probe further to know what was the motivation. Was it by design or was it a mistake? So that we get to know. It does not mean that when the fire emanated from outside, that is the end of the mandate. And Mr. Speaker, from what he has said, because he said the destruction, I've seen him talking about 400 square kilometers, and where wildlife is, and I do agree with the honorable member, that when in the ecosystem there was that destruction, obviously, it makes the animals to move away. And in the process of moving away, it moves out of the park, it goes to the community, and there's wildlife conflict. And I'm also aware, particularly when these elephants go outside there, you know, I also have these people who raid them for the valuables they have. Might it be an intention that maybe it's done that to remove that? That clarity, Mr. Speaker.
That should be
thank
enough so that we can give a few more members. We have Honorable Duale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Speaker, I've listened to the later part of the answer by the chair, but I really want to ask the chair that there's a lot of focus on wild animals in this country. And him being the chair of environment, what happens when there is a fire that destroys the pasture in the rangelands, in semi-arid pastoralist area? You know, government should also be very much concerned about when fire broke out in those pastoralist areas. Not only when it happens in parks, because as much as we protect the parks and the animals, we must also protect the pasture that is a livelihood, the basic livelihood for the livestock keepers and the pastoral community in those areas. So I really want to ask the chairman that as a committee, and I'm sure your vice chair is also a pastoralist, Honorable Sophia, I think you need to find out that there's a lot of, the way the locust has taken that area, so I hope in future we also protect the pasture and the grass and the environment in the pastoralist areas from either premeditated or wildfires.
Okay, Honorable Mlolwa. Honorable Mlolwa, return again your card. You remember you have removed it now.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm interested in the last part of the chairman's statement. For us, for Savo, especially East is all in my constituency. But for KWS, to ensure that some of these things do not happen, the fires and the rest, they should also involve the local communities in benefits from these animals. That way we shall all be winners, there will be no loser. At the moment, the local communities are not benefiting, and there's a lot of agronomy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Chachu Ganya, is it on this one? Can't see him. Honorable Joseph Limo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say this, Mr. Speaker, that as much as the government is keen to protect the animals, it is also very important, Mr. Speaker, that they take into account the interest of the people who live around there when it comes to pastures and other benefits which they should be accruing to the community. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, the same should also happen in the communities who live around the forests and where their crops are destroyed by animals from the forest and they are chased around by the askaris, but their welfare is not well taken care of. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the government should look for a way of protecting the interest of the people who live around the national parks and the forests, so that they live in harmony.
Okay, Honorable Bukose, up on the list.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, having listened keenly on the response from the chair, this issue of fires, Honorable Speaker, have a pattern. In most cases where it happens in forest or wildlife areas, it happens during the dry season, especially, for example, in Endebess, Mount Elgon National Park. And he said in his response, he talked of volunteers coming in to help during that time. I think it's important as a committee to have a budgetary allocation that can be able to take for emergency response and have have casuals ready during those seasons so that they can be able to even prevent the fires. So I think the most important thing is having a program that can prevent those fires, not just going to fight them. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Ashiali.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I'm a bit generous on this particular one because it's the last one.
Yeah.
It is the last one this morning. I'm saying it's the last one this morning. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, a statement sought in this House becomes property of this House, and therefore, whether Honorable Aika is satisfied or not, I think for us we need to raise supplementary issues because, Honorable Speaker,
I've given you an opportunity to raise your supplementary issue.
Thank you.
Forget about Honorable Mizigi. Honorable Mizigi, well, has actually done the best thing of bringing it before the House.
Thank you.
Deal with it yourself.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, on measures that have been taken by this Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife to cap these fires is not clearly articulated by the chair because all the measures enumerated here, this includes collaborating with the community, the army, kazi kwa vijana, all of them are not under their department, and yet they raise a lot of revenue out of this tourism. What are they doing as a department on their own to have maybe firefighters that are actually under their command? Because whatever they have raised as measures here are not clearly under them. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Honorable Rasso.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I thank the chair for his response. But I'm really worried if that is the way we are heading, we'll be in a lot of trouble. If you watch the international news of late, there's this fire in the US that actually has destroyed towns, forests, and it's almost out of control. So long as there's climate change, which is bringing about things like high winds, high temperatures, and all that, these fires will be there. But the important thing is, what are the measures we are going to put in place? Because there will always be poachers, these hunters and gatherers who will, maybe by default, they are going to start these fires. Honorable Speaker, I think while the answer is good, it needs to be more comprehensive by us looking at better mechanisms of once these fires have started, how can it be quickly put off?
Okay.
Thank you.
Honorable Balu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I just want to add my voice to the member for Taita, thanking the chairman for his response on the matter. And I must go into record to say that Safo East National Park touches parts of my constituency, that is Mutitu and Day. And it is true, indeed very true, that the elephants, when there's a fire, in fact, my constituents joined the people of Taita Taveta because we do border to cease the fire. It is true that the elephants, when they move from the national park, they come to our area. We have had a lot of human-animal conflict for the longest time, and it is important. I, as a member of Kibwezi's constituency, have been brought a petition to this parliament on the issue of the elephants, and with the same chairman addressing us. I want to support the member for Taita Taveta County to say that we really need implementation on the issues that were really raised, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, now that Mutituandei is in Kibwezi's constituency and it borders Taita Taveta, we've actually been more affected than even the people of Taita Taveta, because the elephants are getting into our shampas and our people are really being frustrated, women, children, and everybody. So it is important for the chairman, include the committee of implementation, to ensure that this matter is put into, a stop.
Okay. Now, then we have lastly, Honorable Wanyonyi. Lastly, very lastly, and brief.
Mr. Speaker, I want to add my voice on the same. I think we have the Committee of Implementation, and I think what we should do, and what I expect it, because it's actually affecting tourism. These fires affect tourism, and I think all of us benefit from the input, from the earnings from the tourists. Mr. Speaker, I want the Committee of Implementation to come up with a matrix on how to implement, because from what the chairman has said, and I listened very carefully, is that these fires are periodical. Towards the beginning of the year, when the country is very dry, we want to see that the Ministry of Tourism and whoever is involved, Mr. Speaker, let them train the locals.
Put back your mask.
I thought you were not going to hear me.
It's okay. We can still hear
that's
you.
Fine. Huh?
It is more important
Mr.
even
Speaker,
when you are speaking.
So that I hit the point. All I'm saying is that the ministry should be able now to involve the locals, train the locals to be ready in case the fire comes in January, when it's very dry, or it's mid-year. We have the youth who actually are employed. This country has a lot of youths actually. So that the people actually involved can be able to put out the fires on time. We don't want to lose revenue at the rate we are losing today.
Okay. So
I support Mr. Speaker.
So, Chairperson, you have some, I'm sure you've had enough, you must have been noting that down. Most of them are just comments, but for those you think are clarifications you need to clarify, you can proceed and do that in a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I really want to thank the members for the supplementary questions or concerns which they have just raised, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, the right of it, Mr. Speaker, is the level of preparedness by the ministry itself, because the ministry have been relying or doing collaborations with other state agencies when some of these fires break out, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I would like to urge this House, because, Mr. Speaker, we have been having a serious challenges in terms of human rights conflict, Mr. Speaker. We even have a petition which I was supposed to table, but the honorable member is not here, Saifan. Mr. Speaker, the bigger challenge which we have is the conflict, human rights conflict, which also arises out of these fire breakouts in the parks, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, what I would really like to urge this House is to, when the committee comes up with a proposal to enhance the budget for the State Department of Wildlife, specifically for KWS, this House should really be able to support KWS in enhancement of its budget, so that it can be able to acquire equipment, especially the firefighters, so that they can be stationed in our various parks in the country, Mr. Speaker. And in doing so, Mr. Speaker, the level of preparedness will be spot on, especially in the vast Sabo National Park, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, most of these fires are actually premeditated, Mr. Speaker. And hence the issues of the community involvement in firefighting, and also ensuring that the buffer zones are created to separate the parks and the community, Mr. Speaker, will go a long way in fighting these fire outbreaks, especially outside the park, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, about the sentiment from members, we are going to share the same with the Ministry of Wildlife and Tourism to ensure that the preparedness it is spot on, Mr. Speaker. And I thank the honorable members for listening to those concerns.
Thank you very much. So we go to the next order.
Order number 8, Committee of the Whole House.
Order, members. Order. Let me allow the members who are walking out of the chamber, as we are getting to a very serious business. And this is a committee of the whole house. Our members, we are in the committee of the whole house to look into 3 bills, but we are starting with the Employment Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2019. Thereafter, we'll deal with the others before we do the final reporting. Let's start with the Employment Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2019.
Clause 3.
And members, I propose a question which is that clause 3 be part of the bill. We have a proposed amendment by the chair, that is the chair, Labor and Social Welfare. Please move your amendment.
Honorable Chair, I beg to move that clause 3 be amended as proposed in the order paper. And Honorable Chair, the justification is that there is need to strike a balance between the needs of the employee and employer while considering the best interests of the child. That end, the committee was of the view that the provision of period of 1 month for purposes of pre-adoptive leave is sufficient to enable an adopting parent provide continuous care to the child proposed for adoption. I thank you.
Members, with that import, I do move to propose a question, which is that clause 3 be amended as proposed by the Honorable Chair. I welcome the member for Kadiani.
Thank you, Chair. Because this is a part at which you make laws.
Order. Member for Kadiani, there is a point of order. On a point of order comes before you. Yes, it takes precedence. Let me hear the member for Kitui Central.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I was just wondering whether, you know that clause 3 has a number of sections. There is A, B, and the C. Just wondering whether the kind of the justification given by the chair applies to all, because I can see different sections. So are we doing here or we are doing all of them? So that even as we contribute, it's clear to us.
Very well. As we contribute, Honorable Chair, we gave you the opportunity to give your justification or move your proposed amendment on clause 3. And we are taking the whole clause unless a member has an issue, the clause as it is. Unless a member has an issue in 1, 2, or 3. And so I thought the Honorable Chair did move his proposed amendment to the clause. And that's a clause that we did propose. Honorable Chair, please can you be on record on the same? And then you be compressed to cover the whole clause. That is clause 3, 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you, Chair. I give the justification for the amendment for clause 3, 1. Unless, if I stand guided, I can move to the next clause.
Unless a member has an issue, I propose that you give justification for clause 3. But in the event that a member has an issue, which I will allow, they can go by clause 1 by 1. That one, we have that opening. Maybe I guide you, Honorable Chair. All the members, please give the chair. The chair is good enough to go. The chair, please move clause 3 as A, B, and C, and give justification, the import of the same.
Okay, I stand guided, Honorable Chair. I move that clause 3 of the bill be amended in the proposed section 29A by deleting subsection 1 and substituting therefore the following new subsection, which is, where pursuant to section 157 of the Children's Act, a child is to be placed in the continuous care and control of an applicant who is an employee under this act. The employee shall be entitled to 1 month's pre-adoptive leave with full pay from the date of the placement of the child. Now, the justification for that, Honorable Chair, is that there is need to strike a balance between the needs of the employee and employer while considering the best interest of the child. To that end, the committee was of the view that provision of a period of 1 month for purposes of pre-adoptive leave is sufficient to enable an adopting parent to provide continuous care to the child proposed for adoption. Honorable Chair, B, that clause 3 be amended by inserting the following new subsections immediately after subsection 3, and that is contained in the order paper unless you guide me that I should read all of it. I just wanted to read the justification.
Members, let the chairperson give justification, then when it becomes an answer to the House, I can give you point of order. Honorable Limo, what is your point of order? Or what is your wish?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm concerned in the way the amendments are being moved, because in the interest of saving time, the best way is for him to say the amendment as per the order paper. Then he gives justification instead of reading, it has been...
Order, you're actually out of order.
And that's what I did, Honorable Chair, in the first instance.
Honorable Limo, he cannot just say, and because members wants to know the justification, when you say as per the order paper, here we have Honorable Makali who wants to know the justification about the leader of majority say, please make sure that you give us the imports. And there's a matter of a procedure. I will allow the member to give justification because when members are taking a vote, you must get a vote or do a vote from an informed point of view. So I do order. And I order that please, Chair, finish your justification. That is moving your proposed amendment on the clause 3, and then we can move to the next.
Honorable Chair, I have given justification for the amendment of clause 3.1, and the next one is a new one. So I thought you will go one after the other.
Chair, allow me guide you, and I want to do the last time. Please just move your justification on the clause 1. This is the import. 3A, B, C, this is the import, and then we'll propose the question for members to debate. Chair, I order that you move.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I propose that clause 3 be amended by inserting the new subsection as contained in the order paper. And the justification for that new section, Honorable Chair, is that there is need to accord special consideration to parents who intend to obtain leave to enable them care for and apply for adoption of child born as a result of surrogate motherhood agreements. Firstly, a surrogate motherhood agreement presents a unique situation where the primary caregiver of the newborn child is not the mother who is birthed the child, since ordinarily a surrogate agreement terminates upon birth of the child, whereupon the child is placed in the care of commissioning of the biological mother. Therefore, it is the commissioning or biological parent who provides care and exercises control of the child, and therefore requires sufficient time after the child's birth in order to do so. In these circumstances, it was noted that a period of 2 months would enable a commissioning mother provide necessary care to the newborn child before resuming work on a full-time basis. Secondly, Honorable Chair, it was noted that in Kenya, as it is presently, a commissioning or biological mother requires to apply to the court for adoption of her biological child born out of surrogate motherhood agreement. This is because the birth certificate and notification are both issued indicating the name of the surrogate or birthing mother and not the commissioning or biological mother. The biological mother requires sufficient time to bond with the child and also apply for adoption.
Very well, members. With that, Chair, you've already moved to import. With that, honourable members, I propose the question, which is that clause 3 be amended as proposed by the Chair. Then I can open a debate, 2 or 3 people. Honourable Member for Saku, do you want to speak to this?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, before Member for Saku, there was an interruption by the member for Kitui, and now that the Honourable Boy was on the chair, on the floor, Boy, please, can you just do your...
Thank you very much.
No, it is Honourable Boy. Then you. He was on the floor.
I was on the floor. Thank you, Chair. Chair, I wish to point out a few things on that clause 3. That the first one, of course, because this is when we are making the law, is in the language used in clause 3.1, where you say the employee shall be entitled. It should be entitled to. So that one, I think you need to, I don't know whether he has to make it an amendment, because I think it's basically it's been corrected. Oh, because it's not right for someone to correct it if it's not said here, because it says as per the order paper. The other one is clause 3b. I have concern because it says that an employee who is eligible for leave under subsection 3A shall give the employer not less than 7 days written notice in advance. Then it goes further and says, or a shorter period as may be reasonable in the circumstances. You cannot, Madam Speaker, have in the same law 2 options, that you give 7 days or a shorter period. It's either 7 days minimum or remove the 7 days and have a reasonable period. But you cannot have the 2. Because you're already giving opportunity for someone to go against the law that is already set. So I propose that he either goes with 7 days, minimum notice for an employer, or a reasonable period. Thank you, Chair.
Very well. Let me have the Leader of Majority. Leader of Majority, and even for you to pronounce yourself to the already corrected section, clause 3.1.
Yes, I thank the member for raising the issue of the tenses in terms of the entitled and entitled. Usually some of those are picked up anyway at the point of doing the very final, because it may not come out here. Now, in terms of the second issue of whether you can have 7 days or a shorter period, 7 days, you know, you're talking here of 7 days is when you're expecting a baby to be born. What happens if the baby is born within those 7 days? Yeah, it becomes a shorter period, right? So the notice could be shortened depending on, you imagine in the normal expected date of delivery, right? That it will be on this day. If the child is born earlier than within those 7 days, what happens? And I think that amendment is to cater for that kind of situation.
Very
so
well.
it's not poor legal drafting, because this has gone through the legal drafters, but it's a provision that recognizes a potential reality.
Very well. Leader of Majority, you pronounced yourself on the typo error. Let me go back to the Honorable Member for Saku.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I stand to support this amendment. And also I thank the Chair of the committee. I think this law, being a living document, it shows the progressive nature of our laws, because the idea of surrogate and adoption, it has always been considered to be just some normal thing that can happen outside the normal birth of mothers and parenthood. So the idea of bonding is really important. But also, as the Chair has said, this is a delicate balance between parenting and the employee, because the employer is not going to just give leave to his workers, sometimes at will, because some of these workers might be holding very key appointment in those organizations. But the Chair of Labor, I still want to request what Honorable Mbui there has said. The idea of 7 days or any shorter time, I think we are making laws. And 7 days might be short or might be long, but it is important for us to put our heart somewhere as opposed to almost border on ambiguity. Thank you, Chair.
Very well. Let me have the member for Emuhaya.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Chair. I want to support the amendments by the Chair. They are actually committee amendments. And on the first one, the idea was to expand the leave for people adopting the child. But we thought that it's very important to balance between the employer's interest. We'll always want the workers to be on job, and also the human aspect of it, Honorable Chair, where we have this child to be taken care of. And that's why the Chair is settling on 1 month. But in the second case, is the case of surrogacy. And surrogacy, you know, there's no law, Honorable Chair, that really governs surrogacy in this country. And like the immediate former speaker who has spoken of this has said, this is a very strong attempt to try and then start adopting within the laws of Kenya surrogacy. And I believe this will move on. So in this case, then, we are saying that because the child who is being born, one will be born in a certificate of somebody else, and there's a period where, again, the court must do something for that name to be changed to the parents who invoke the surrogacy, then we have given them 2 months, because the 2 months can be able to make them whole and actually bring up the child strongly. So I want to strongly support this.
Yes, strongly support. The last, let me give it to the Honorable Wangari. Just give her. I am aware you have no company.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank the committee. And I wanted to speak earlier just to give a background of the bill as a mover of the bill. And I thank the chair in the Labour Committee because it's been a long process to even get here. And we had dealt with the committee before it was reconstituted and now after it was reconstituted. But the basic explanation is that more and more people are adopting children nowadays. There are many reasons that is happening. And I know most of us have someone who has adopted a child. And if you get a child through surrogacy, by law, you still have to adopt that child. And the argument was, if you adopt even a 6-month-old baby, you do not get any leave at all by law. And Madam Chair, that is a discriminating situation, depending and looking at Article 53 of the Constitution to the rights of the child and Article 157 of the Children's Act. So this amendment is to correct that. My desire was to get 3 months to equal with the biological birthing, but Madam Chair, during public participation of this bill, the employers also made their case, and they said that 3 months is a lot, and we scaled it back to 1 month. So I want to thank the committee for going out, for taking the public views, but that is basically what it is meant to cure. Because as it is, that is it's a prerogative of an employer. You can decide to give leave, some do, some others don't, regardless of what age of a child you adopt. So as we protect the rights of children, we cater for all of them, whether you birth them, whether you adopt them, or whether you get them through surrogacy. So thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make that clarification.
Very well for the clarification, the mover, but again, this has become the committee amendment, the Wangari being the mover. Members, with that import, I want to put the question, with the debate, I want to put the question, which is as clause 3, be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of the opinion say aye? And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Title.
I propose the question, which is that the title be the title to the bill. We have no amendments to the title, and I move to put the question, which is that the title be the title to the bill. As many as of the opinion say aye, and as many of contrary opinion say nay, the ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose a question, which is that clause 1 be part of the bill. We have no amendment to the clause, and I move to put the question, which is that clause 1 be part of the bill. Members, will as many as of the opinion say aye, and as many as the contrary opinion say nay, the ayes have it. Members, we are through with the Committee of the Whole House on the Employment Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill, number 15 of 2019. As I said before, it was fairly a very short bill. And I move to call upon the mover to move reporting.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Employment Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill, number 15 of 2019, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Very well. Honourable members, I put the question for reporting, which the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Employment Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2019, and its approval thereof with amendments. The reporting of the whole will be done later. We move to the next bill so that we count the 3 bills together. But before then, allow me to put the question of the same. Will as many as of the opinion say aye? And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Members, now we move to the next bill. Other members, those who are working in. The next bill is the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2019.
Clause 2.
I propose a question, which is a clause 2 be part of the bill. We have an amendment to clause 2. Please, Honorable Chair. Peter Mwadi, move your amendment.
Thank you, Chair. And Honorable Chair, I beg to move that clause 2 be amended as proposed in the order paper with the following justification: that the proposed amendment seeks to correct typographical errors in the current clause.
Very well, correction of error. With that, I propose a question, which is that clause 2 be amended as proposed by the chair. The mood of the House is that I put a question, it's just a correction. Members, I put the question, which is that clause 2 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as of this opinion say aye? And as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? Members, the ayes have it. I put the question to the clause, which is as clause 2 as amended be part of the bill. As many as of the opinion say aye? And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? Members, the ayes have it. Next clause.
Clause 3.
I propose the question, which is a clause 3 be part of the bill. Amendment, we have a proposed amendment. Honorable Peter Mwadi, please move it.
Thank you, Chair. And I propose that clause 3 that the clause 3 be amended by deleting the current clause 3 and substituting, therefore, a new clause 3 as contained in the order paper. And the justification, Honorable Chair, is that A, we replace the terminology permanent secretary, which is obsolete, with principal secretary. B, ensure that the council has an odd number, which is ideal for voting purposes. And C, reduce the bloated membership of the council to 15 members. It is presently comprising of 22 members, contrary to the stipulated numbers under the State Corporation Act, which gives a maximum of 15 persons. D is to ensure that the appointment of the youth to the council follows a competitive process, promotes the values and principles of public service contained in Article 232 of the Constitution by requiring fair competition and merit as the basis of appointment. And finally, A, Honorable Chair, to provide for qualifications to be held by youth members of the council so as to guarantee the competitive and merit-based recruitment proposed. As it is presently, the current act only stipulates qualifications to be held by the chairperson. I beg to move.
Very well. With that, important members, I propose a question, which is that clause 3 be amended as proposed by the chair, the Honorable Peter Mwathi, MP. I welcome comments from Honorable Member for Makueni.
Thank you, Chair. You know, one time I was the Minister of Youth and Sports, and yes, I was the Secretary of the Minister of Youth and Sports. And I want
Were
to
you
say
the Secretary or you are the Minister?
I was then. In those days, during the Kibaki administration, I was the Secretary, Minister of Youth and
So your title was the Secretary?
The Secretary. Okay. And I want to say that this idea of an executive chairman was really troublesome that time. So the amendment, a non-executive chairperson who shall be a youth appointed by the president, is really appropriate, and it sorts out the power struggle which has been with the youth. And the whole general amendments, including the presence of the Attorney General to give the youth legal advice appropriately. And mainly, it was proposed that this is handled by people who are youths, so that even the people seconded by the Principal Secretary, the Principal Secretary, Madam Speaker, are all fit under the youth category. I thank you. I second. I support.
You support very well the former secretary, of course. Let me have the honorable member for Osoti Godfrey.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as much as I want to support the amendment, I am concerned because the council seems very bloated with a membership of 16 members. You see, even with Mwongozo guideline, that is very way off the guideline of Mwongozo. Number two, the criteria for identifying the 10 youth who are going to sit on the council is a prerogative of cabinet secretary. Madam Speaker, this is where we have a problem, because we end up having a body which is supposed to represent the interest of youth, but it is not representing the interest of the youth, because 6 members are principal secretaries, and then the 10 youth who are appointed by the cabinet secretary, the criteria is not very clear. Madam Speaker, we have many youth organizations which should be given the chance to go through a process of selecting the 10 youth who will sit on the council. As it is now, Madam Speaker, this is not going to be a representative body for youth in this country because of the process of the appointment of the 10 youth, and because of the fact that the 6 members who sit on that council are senior government officials who will definitely intimidate the 10 youth who sit there. So I will support the amendment, but I think it would have been done better than it has been done here.
Very well. Let me hear from the member, Honorable Limo Joseph, member for Kipkelion East.
Yes, Madam Chair, I hereby stand to really support this amendment, which will make the Youth Council more robust and more effective, because the youth of this country are very important vehicle for any development. However, Madam Chair, I have noted that in the amendment under B and C, it looks like a repetition, because the principal secretary responsible for matters of the youth. Both of them are a repetition, and maybe that's why it's making the number to be 16. Number two, Madam Chair, I want to say that the procedure in which these representatives of the youth are going to be picked is not clear. We have had so many cases where there is a requirement that it should show the regional balance and all that, but there is no way of ensuring that it is actually complied. You will find 3 youth will come from the same region, and it's not a problem. So what I'm saying is, these youth councils have regions. This should have been taken into account here by saying that each of all these 10 must represent certain regions in the country. I think that could be a progressive way of doing this amendment or this law, Madam Speaker, to ensure that the youth of this country are properly represented. Otherwise, this amendment is very good and we want to support, but probably with further amendment so that it is
Very
properly
well.
indicated.
Very well, Honorable Limo. Honorable Limo, you are a senior member of this House, and you know this is an amendment by the committee, and I'm sure your proposed amendments could be very critical too, but you also know the procedure. You just don't debate from that point. You know how to do it, and again, you should have brought an amendment or deal with the chairs before we finish with the whole thing. I'm just guiding you. Then I also admit that the leader majority is here, that B and C read the same, and I'm sure being just a repetition, the clerks be able to put it in order. I do order. That must be looked into. So with that, I give it to the member for Kitui Central. You've been raising your hand, and we don't raise hands in the House. Yes, Kitui Central.
You know the reason I'm raising my hand, Madam Chair, is because you only gave me a chance on a point of order. I'm trying to contribute, but it looks like you counted my point of order. Anyway,
Your point of order, Honorable Makali, allow me also get back to your point of order addressed by the chairperson on the issue, but now you are on the Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill, that now you are making your contribution, unless you're on a point of order.
No, Madam Chair, let me just say I support these amendments, just as my colleagues have said, but we must make observations, Honorable Chair. And Honorable Chair, I think to me the issue here is the issue of how to appoint the youth to this National Youth Council. And it being a National Youth Council, there is need to have fairness, openness, and transparency on how to identify them. And even if it's written, when you read the Honorable Chair, when you look at 2, that's what is emphasized under that clause, that 2. But the challenge is it's not being implemented. And I think really it's the work of this House, since we are making the law, to ensure that that process remains transparent. I submit.
Very well. I'm sure the chairman is not in the same. Now that we are dealing with the amendments, let me have the member for Alego Songa, because I can see there's a lot of interest in the Youth Council Amendment Bill.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I am of the view that having a youth to chair the council really does not mean that that council will be more effective. Remember, Madam Chair, if you are an adult like me, I have been a youth before. Therefore, this idea that if somebody who is a youth is chairing an institution like this one, then it will serve the youth, I think I'm opposed to it. And I would like to say that we need to have somebody chairing this body which is not a youth. Must not be a youth, necessarily must not be a youth. Secondly, I'm saying that, Madam Chair, because imagine you are having the CS for Treasury, the PS for Treasury, and all these senior government officers in an institution with a youth, somebody who's a youth who has never even worked anywhere, does not have any professional or technical experience, does not know anything about best practice, and you are thinking that that person is going to give the youth the opportunity that they deserve. I am of the view that we need to open up the position of the chairperson for somebody who must not be a youth, because what we want is effectiveness and performance. And anyway, if you are an old man, you have been a youth before, so you are
Very
both.
well.
Secondly, Madam Chair, I have seen that there's a requirement that you must be a degree holder for you to be a chair. Why? Who said that you must have a degree to chair these things? Even in this house, there are many people who are not degree holders and they are members here. So let us delete that aspect requiring that the chairperson must be a degree holder, and we go for other factors other than education. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very well, members, even in the committee of this House of Debates, then members are free to contribute. I give the member nominated, Honorable Gatti Denita, the floor before I put the question.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for this opportunity. Madam Chair, to really thank the committee, because this is a rare opportunity for the young people in this country to be in leadership. Madam Chair, I want to just quickly say and support the amendment and say, Madam Chair, that it is very, very clear in the Constitution, Madam Chair, on the issue of inclusivity. Madam Chair, you know me, I champion inclusivity in this country. And Madam Chair, I am very, very particular, especially when it comes to the issue of including youths with disabilities in such a body. Madam Chair, this is a national body. And Madam Chair, it would be prudent to see from the committee the allocation, Madam Chair, as stipulated, Madam Chair, in the Constitution, that out of the 10 that are going to be appointed, Madam Chair, how many, for example, are youths that will be youths with disabilities, that will also articulate the issues and challenges of youth with disabilities in this country, in this body. Madam Chair, for me, this amendment is in line with our Constitution, and it is in this respect, Madam Chair, that I'm supporting the idea of the amendments of this bill, Madam Chair, to show the issue of regions, Madam Chair. We have 8 regions in this country, and Madam Chair, the composition must show that it has to really take youths from the 8 regions of this country if we are talking about fairness, Madam Chair, and representation. Madam Chair, we have the tenets of regional representation. Madam Chair, we have the other tenets of diversities, which we are talking about the gender. Madam Chair, the gender has to really come out clearly in this composition, that even as much as you're talking of the youth, Madam Chair, we have to see ladies as young people, Madam Chair, and then we have to see the diversity that is disability, Madam Chair. Those are the simplest issues, Madam Chair, that really the committee has to take into consideration if we are talking about inclusivity in this country as we, put together this whole committee. Madam Chair, allow me to support the amendment to see the issues that we are bringing on board. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very well, good contribution by the member. Honorable Mboy, what is
Madam Chair, there has been a very clear mistake that has been pointed out by the Honorable Limo. And if we go ahead and put the question, before this has been amended and passed in this House, then the final report has to come out looking like this. So we must amend this, even the numbering, before we can put the question, so that we don't go and you cannot edit the law through the stable office. It has to be done on the floor because this is third reading. So I propose that amendment be forwarded. We pass it now.
Very well, honorable members. You know, some of you are just making what we call expressing wishes. This is a house. This clause has been amended by the committee. At this point, you take it. But as a chair, at one point I'll make a ruling. So having Honorable Mbui, Honorable Limo, and the rest, you know the procedures of the House. That I am tied. Having gone through the order paper, you should have proposed your further amendments or your amendments, or either we do the necessary of the House taking a vote. But the issues, the small issues that of numbering, and I will make a ruling using my powers after I put the question. Honourable members, and I therefore move to put the question. And then, there's this member who has been here, and members, I have realized today that members do not have a card. Leader of majority must note this, that members do not have their cards. Honourable Caleb, it's out of my discretion, I'll give you just, the chance to make a contribution. Yes. Just make your comment. Then after Honorable Caleb, I'll give to the chair. The chair, having listened, and I put a question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, for this opportunity. It's true that our cards are not working, but I hope something is being done about it. Madam Chair, being a young person in this country and being a young leader, I think it is important to look at the history of youth organization in this country, that what has led to youth agitation to be included in governance and positions of high authority is because they are not well organized in terms of national council. We've had several national youth movement, but we've never had such a well-organized in terms of an existing legislation to guide the movements that we've had in this country. So this is in support of the agitation of young people in this country, and it is well that we take into cognizance that the movement or the council must be led by the young people, because they understand better the fellow youth. We've had a problem of putting the elderly or the elders in positions of the young people, and they don't understand the issues surrounding the young people. So it's important that when you talk about inclusivity of the young people in this country, it begins with leadership of the council to be young. We cannot have a population of 70%, youthful population of 70% of this country population, and we are talking about the youth council being led by an elder person.
Very well.
So, Madam Chair, it is important that we recognize the importance of a population, that it can be a disaster if we don't recognize the youth in terms of even organizations, their position in this country, their ability, their capacity, their innovation minds, to contribute positively to the growth of this country.
Okay. Your point is well put. Honourable members, allow me give the chair to respond to this before I put the question.
Thank you, Chair. I note that, as pointed out by Honorable Limo and Honorable Mbui, that we have the clause regarding the Principal Secretary for Youth has been repeated, and I want to stand guided by the Chair if the drafting then, therefore, will allow a repetition to be deleted if it is a repetition without having to come as an amendment. I will stand guided by yourself. Secondly, on the issue of affirmative action, when we are talking about youth, and I expect the Principal Secretary to be guided by the principles contained in our Constitution, that we have youths who are considered who are youth with a disability from marginalized areas, and indeed regional balance, which is provided for also in the Constitution. So that is my contribution, and it will be on record that the Principal Secretary should, as much as possible, try and balance out and consider affirmative action as well. I want to thank you.
Very well. With that statement and response from the chairperson or members, I want to refer you to the your standing orders number 152(3) on custody of bills, with the chairman having pronounced himself in that on 3, we are talking that at any time before that certification of the bill, the speaker may correct formal errors or oversights therein without changing the substance of the bill, and thereafter submit it to the present for assent. So, honourable members, with the chairman having pronounced himself on the correction, I do order, before I put the question, that such numbering should be renumbered. The repetition should be looked into. And of course, any other correction that is not forming substance in the bill. I move to put the question with that guidance, which is that clause 3 be amended as proposed by the chair. All members, will as many as of the opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? Members, the ayes have it. I put the question to the clause, which is as clause 3, as amended be part of the bill. As many as of the opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next clause.
Clause 4.
I propose the question, which is a clause 4, be part of the bill. Members, we have no proposed amendment to the clause. I now therefore move to put the question, which is a clause 4, be part of the bill. As many as of the opinion say aye, and as many as of contrary opinion say nay. Members, the ayes have it.
New clause 4A.
I propose a question, which is a new clause 4A, be part of the bill. No, this is a new clause. All members, I propose a question, which is that new clause 4A be now read a second time. The honorable member, please move your second reading of this new clause 4A.
Mike, sorry. Thank you, Chair. Chair, I move that the bill be amended by inserting a new clause 4A immediately after clause 4, as contained in the order paper, and this is to provide.
Chair, you know, this is the House of Procedure, Chair, and we must always follow the procedure. I do guide that you move the second reading. Maybe I guide you that new clause 4A be now read a second time, and then now you can justify.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for that guidance. Honorable Chair, I move that new clause 4A be now read a second time. And this clause is to provide for a schedule for the appointment of members of the council as contained in the order paper.
Now with that, honorable members, I propose a question, which the new clause 4A be now read a second time. I welcome debates on the same. The member, Ole Sango, do I put the question? I see, yes, with the mood and approval of the House.
Yes, put the question.
Honourable members, I move to put the question, which is that new clause 4A be now read a second time. Honourable members, will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. And members who have contrary opinion say nay? Members, the ayes have it. I propose a question, which is that new clause 4A be part of the bill. Again, I see the indication of the House is that I move to put the question, which I do put the question, which is that new clause 4A be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? Members, the ayes have it. Next.
Title.
Members, I propose a question, which is that the title be the title to the bill. I pronounce myself that we have no proposed amendment to the title, and I move to put the question, which is that the title be the title to the bill. Members, will as many as of the opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose a question, which is that clause 1 be part of the bill. I see no proposed amendment by the committee to clause 1, and members, I move to put the question, which is that clause 1 be part of the bill. Honourable members, will as many as of the opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honourable members, this gives us to the end of the committee of the whole, and I therefore call upon the mover of the bill to move reporting. The mover to move the reporting. Chair.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2019, and its approvals thereof with amendments.
Very well, honourable members, I now put the question for reporting, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2019, and its approval thereof with amendments. Will as many as of this opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? Members, the ayes have it. Next bill. The next bill, honourable members, we are on committee of the whole, is the Public Service Values and Principles Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 29 of 2019, as indicated in our order paper number 8. I see the leader of majority.
Chair, I want to seek the indulgence of the House because there's been consultation between the chair of the committee and the member, and they agreed that we move this bill, we step it down and allocate it some other time so that both of them can be here to prosecute the committee amendments as well as the members. So the bill stood down.
Very well, with the guidance and leadership of the leader of majority on the same, with the honorable mover, issue having been addressed, I do order that the Public Service Values and Principles Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 29 of 2019, for the reasons given by the leader of majority, be stood down. Honourable members, with that, the committee will now report to the House on the two bills that we have been able to do the committee of the whole.
Mr. Speaker.
Chairperson. Let's start with the Employment Amendment Bill.
Honourable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Employment Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2019, and approved the same with amendments.
Mover.
Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the Employment Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2019. Also request Honourable D. Doraso to second the motion.
Honourable Doraso.
Second, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable members, I pose a question, which is that the House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the Employment Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2019. Honourable members, I will put the question that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House in its consideration of the Employment Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2019. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover.
Honorable Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the Employment Amendment Bill, National Assembly, number 15 of 2019, be now read a third time. I also request Honorable Robert Mbui to second.
Honorable Mbui. Very well. Honorable Ketel, hold, freeze. Honorable members, I propose a question which is that the Employment Amendment Bill, National Assembly, Bill number 15 of 2019, be now read at that time. Very well. Honorable members, I will proceed to put the question. I've confirmed that we have the quorum in the House, and therefore put the question that the Employment Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2019 be now read at that time. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Employment Act and for connected purposes.
Very well. Shall we go to the next bill? The National Youth Council, Chairperson.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2019, and approved the same with amendments.
Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report, and I also request Honorable Sangok to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House.
Honorable Sangok.
Honorable Speaker, this is a very progressive bill, and I beg to second this bill, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Honorable members, I propose a question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. I'll put the question that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover. Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2019, be now read a third time, and I also request Honorable Sangok to second.
Honorable Sangok.
Honorable Speaker, as I second, this is a very progressive bill so that we have youth being able to have a very good channel and a framework in which they air their views. So, Honorable Speaker, I beg the House that they should support this bill, and I beg to second.
Honorable members, I propose a question that the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2019, be now read at that time. Honorable members, I'll put the question, having confirmed that we have quorum, that the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2019, be now read at that time. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the National Youth Council Act.
Very well. Honorable members, we are done with those two bills. Next order.
Order number 9, the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2019, second reading, resumption of debate.
Honorable members, this is a resumption of debate on the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2019. We have 1 hour, 1 minute to conclude this bill. There are those who had spoken to this bill. They shall obviously not speak again on this. And just to jog our memory, Those who spoke are Honorable Wanga, who moved, Honorable Martin Owino, who seconded, Honorable Shabil, Honorable Sankok, Honorable Kenan, Honorable Oudo, Honorable Wangwe, Honorable Kimani Kuria, Honorable Paul Mwirigi, Honorable Atadi, Honorable Chepkut, Honorable Mishiboko, Honorable Jared Okelo, Honorable Tadaza, Honorable Pukose, Honorable Mizigi. Those had spoken on these items, so they shall not speak again on that. So we shall use the register here on the interest members have put across to speak to this. The first on top here is Honorable Manzo Kitonga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very important bill. Mr. Speaker, the Cancer Prevention and Control Act do exist, and this is an amendment of the same to be able to embrace a new technology, which is e-health and e-telemedicine, whereby, Mr. Speaker, people who suffer from cancer, and we know that is a very, very dangerous disease. People who suffer from it are terminally ill, and if it's not discovered early in life, it has costed the loss of quite a number of people. And therefore, owing now to the new developments in the world, we have seen the advent of corona, and people not be able to travel. A lot of activities are happening electronically, and at the same time, you can have telemedicine, whereby there is even someone who is in India can be able to communicate with a patient here or a doctor here or in any other part of the country. And this was the whole idea of the amendments, to make sure that the act is comprehensive and is full, and the activities which happen within that law to prevent spread of cancer, information can flow. And in fact, a lot of it is more of information when there is a cancer patient, and when one has information early enough, quite a number of people in the world have been healed of cancer, including very, very delicate cancer like pancreatic cancer. There are specific hospitals in the United States whereby they guide each other, and doctors or surgeons dealing with this can be able to share their information through telemedicine or electronically. It means then we are formalizing the use of the e-ways so that there can be communication. And I believe surgeons in another part of the world can be able to be guided using electronic equipment, and even an operation can be guided from a specialist or a senior person in another country while the same is happening here. And hence the need to legalize this and make it good. Also, the prevention, because you see the main idea has been prevention, so that many people of the population do not get cancer, and this information is crucial. Sometimes we get unqualified information and verified information by medical practitioners on how to prevent cancer. For example, processed foods have been blamed as oxidants and sometimes they activate the growth of these unusual cells, and that is information which can be passed by many ways, so that as many people as possible are aware on what to do, so that they don't end up with cancer. And in the event it is discovered at very, very early stages, then what to do again also. One can be guided, and quite a number of people have really been saved through information. And getting the information is good. Information on testing for cancer, information on, looking for of specialists. And this information now can be relayed electronically, and it is valid. It cannot be challenged for being illegal or for having been amounted to a misadvice or a suit arising out of it if a patient feels that they have not been dealt with correctly. And mostly also the foods, which also, help stop cancer, or even there has also been methods to make sure that a cancer patient is relieved out of pain and lives longer. And again, this information can be relayed electronically and it becomes valid and qualifies. And this was the background under which Honorable Wanga moved to this, and Honorable Wanga has quite a lot of information on the issue of prevention of cancer, and I believe it is good to support her in these particular amendments so that we can make sure that the act is tight and as many people as possible can be assessed in Kenya and even in the world. It means also when we come up with this e-health and telemedicine, it means there are protocols which have to be observed because of dealing with the different countries, different legal regimes, and it means other than just this, we have, international agreements where Kenya is a party, conventions dealing with health, like the way we have seen with the advent of corona. We've all had to pass laws and regulations which were also happening in other parts of the country, and we will all be guided by the guidelines of the World Health Organization, because there are protocols in the medical area whereby many countries are party to, including Kenya. And this is one of the areas we are also making sure that pursuant to those protocols, then a law of this nature can exist, and when transactions happen electronically, then they are valid and they are deemed to have happened in a good way and in good order. And also, it's more of making sure now the world is a global village. And just as we discussed the other day in this house about, medical tourism here, and a lot of our people who've been spending a lot of money in treatment of, and especially cancer, in many parts of the world. Now that particular person can deal with it electronically while you are here, and you are guided through a process which is now within the law. So, Mr. Speaker, always that I'm sure other people want to contribute, I really want to congratulate the Honorable Wanga and Haila for having, first of all, participated initially when we were making this act, and now having come up with amendments which are very sound, and I really want to support her in this. I urge the whole House to support, and I believe it's going to be good law to serve our nation. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Raso Ali.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this morning I lost one of my constituents to cancer, a mother of 4, and somebody who is in her 30s. She's been to India, and she basically went through almost all the hospitals in Kenya that deals with cancer. So cancer is a major killer today. Where I come from in Marsabit, there are many other ailments and diseases, but cancer is a major killer. This particular bill, I want to thank Honorable Wanga. I think even in the last parliament, she was able to bring to the floor of the House a progressive bill that today there is quite a bit of awareness and also element of funding and thinking in terms of having oncologists in many of the hospitals, and also the need for this country to train more oncologists and also practitioners who are able to help us in fighting the scourge of cancer. Honorable Speaker, I think to say what are some of the fine lines. Screening must be our priority area, because most of the cancers today in Kenya, it is discovered at the 40th stage, and at that stage, somebody actually will just be on their final days. So that if screening is done and early enough, then there'll be a respite or available medication might be found when it is in the very early stages. Honorable Speaker, currently, where Kenyans seek for cancer treatment are only a few hospitals in Nairobi, and also it is where Kenyans go for what is now famously coined as medical tourism to India. If we take the quantification of how much money we take to India, and the government begins to think that why can't we have cancer centers at every of our 47 counties, every of the referral hospitals within those counties, I think we are going to save a lot of money. Honorable Speaker, the other area that we really need to think through is the area of study and research on cancer. Because what scientifically is out there, that somewhere in our lives, everybody or majority of persons living are likely to have some form of cancer. And for that to be dealt with, I think it's only through research and studies in our universities and institutions of higher learning, or even a specialized institution like KEMRI and others, so that Kenyans, in terms of awareness, in terms of dealing with cancer, I think we will be able to be a country that, even within our region, I think we are placed so high. But particularly on this case of cancer, we could be a beacon in this region to help others and also help ourselves. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Let's have Honorable Wambirianga Nanjala, member for Bungoma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this time. On the onset, I also stand to second that amendment bill on cancer and prevention. It traces back in 2016 in this House or even earlier. From what Honorable Wanga brought forward, it's actually just a continuation of the same. This bill is quite important in the sense that when cancer is identified at an early stage, the prevention actually occurs. And sometimes the identification of cancer or the diagnosis of cancer may not be correct. But with or digital consultation by different doctors, it's quite easy to find out and to see how these doctors maybe can consult each other and come up with the correct diagnosis. First of all, it is at the right stage that cancer can be treated, because most of our people don't get to know about cancer. They only get to discover that they have cancer when it is so late. Maybe it's in its third or fourth stage, and that really becomes a problem. At this stage, with this kind of consultation, I'm sure doctors can come together, put their discoverings together, and by the time they do their diagnosis and the treatment plan, you find that they'll be doing the right thing. Cancer has been a killer, and we know that. There's no single weekend most of us don't go home to bury a cancer patient. Tomorrow I'll be in Homa Bay burying a father to one of my colleagues, a teacher in Homa Bay, who has just died of cancer. Last weekend, the other 2 weekends was the same. Let us give it a chance, and with the e-medicine and e-treatment, I'm sure something is going to be done. When we look around, even in this country and in this city, we have private practitioners who have come up with separate cancer treatments. But most cases, you find that they are quite expensive for our local people to advance and even to get. It is very important that the government actually subsidize this, and this is going to be easy for our people to access. For example, we have our own Texas Cancer Center here, which is owned by a doctor from Bungoma. She's present here in Nairobi, Dr. Catherine Nyongesa. This is a center that has really helped many. But in terms of expenses, it is not easy that all people will afford this. So it has not been easy. And from the onset, I want to actually congratulate Honorable Wanga for having been consistent on this bill. And finally, it's brought here. I urge all members in this House to support this bill because it's a very important bill. It's a progressive bill that is going to see Kenya a milestone ahead in terms of treatment and prevention of cancer, and even in terms of the expenses that are involved. In fact, from that, diet must be included, because when diet is included, it is at this stage that the correct diet actually helps prevent cancer. Most people don't know that, but with the correct diet, right from the onset, you find that cancer can be minimized or reduced. I'm not saying it's going to be finished, but with the correct diet, I know cancer can be reduced in this country. On that note, I beg to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I also rise to support the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill brought to this House by the Honorable Gladys Wanga, our Chair for Finance. I'll begin by saying, Mr. Speaker, that this is a very, very progressive bill. And I say it's progressive because we basically have to adjust to the times. And Mr. Speaker, you notice that from early this year, when we got to know that there is this virus called corona, the ministry has moved very fast and introduced measures. We have these measures of social distancing. We have these measures of sanitizing all the time. And all of us, even in this chamber, we are actually basically wearing masks, including yourself, Mr. Speaker. So basically, this, in my opinion, this bill is also looking at what can we do as a nation so that we can also be able to be involved in the fight against cancer. Mr. Speaker, cancer is lethal. In fact, I think it's one of the biggest killers. And considering that, then we must fight it with all weapons and all ammunition. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that most of the funerals we are attending on a daily basis and contributing in Harambes for are caused by this disease. So it's important that members be active and proactive and progressive, like Honorable Wanga, so that we can be able to come up with laws that can help our people. You know, from my observation, it looks like this disease is not gender sensitive, is not age sensitive, it's not wealth sensitive. It just attacks anyone. And it's really something that we all need to think about. So I'm very happy that Honorable Wanga has proposed some ideas that can be helpful in terms of preventing it and controlling it. And I want to agree that modern times call for modern measures. And we have advanced as a nation and as a world. In fact, we are talking about having a global village. And when some nations are well advanced in technology and in understanding and in the research they've done on cancer, some are behind. Like I would say that Kenya is quite behind. So her proposal to use modern methods of electronic and ICT, or basically telecommunication, in order to fight this disease, I think that's very, very important. From far, we can actually be able to consult. We should also be able to do the right diagnostics, and we should also be able to get proper arrangements for treatment. I think it's important that we support this bill because it kind of gives solutions to how we can be able to fight cancer. I also want to support the idea of promoting our, in our training institutions. It is important to also ensure that cancer is, because it's just one of those things that we have to deal with. It's one of those problems that we have. We promote the training of those people that are in that line, oncologists, in the different spheres, in radiology, in all the things that she has pointed out. So basically, I want to just say, I think this is very progressive, and I support. Thank you, Chair.
We shall have Honorable Gitawa Irimo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance. Cancer is said to be the third leading cause of death in Kenya. In one way or another, I have gone through this, and so I know what I'm talking about. And so this bill comes at a time when cancer treatment really needs to be part of primary health care. The prevalence of cancer is very high, especially among women at a much younger age, average 52 years, with about 57% compared to men at 62 years with 43%. And that children and the rural populations are as much of a concern as adults and those in urban areas. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I really support the amendment as brought forth by my colleague Gladys Wanga. Cancer should be treated at the basic level rather than at the specialized level. Widespread lack of awareness and accurate information about cancer is one reason why screening is rare, and many cancers are detected when it is too late to treat effectively. Several cultural myths, such as cancer is caused by curses of ancestors, exist, which are critical obstacles to expanded cancer control and care in Kenya, especially when it comes to the early detection. Therefore, with the use of information technology, the e-health, myths and misconceptions about the disease will be debunked. Additionally, Honorable Speaker, practitioners in the field of oncology will have cancer treatment included as part of primary health care, and I think that is very important. Accessing cancer screening and treatment is one of the major hurdles Kenyan patients with cancer face. You'll agree with me that reports show most cancer care services in Kenya are concentrated within a 5-kilometer radius of each other in Nairobi and not in the rural centers. This leads to very limited access to care for most patients with cancer, since 78% of Kenyans are rural residents, resulting in long waiting times, causing some previously curable tumors to progress in curable stages. Honorable Speaker, the fact highlights one of the important propositions in the bill, that is incorporation of telemedicine, which allows caring for patients remotely when the provider and patient are not physically present with each other. Physicians and patients can share information in real time from one computer screen to another. And they can even see and capture readings from medical devices at a faraway location. Using telemedicine software, patients can see a doctor for diagnosis and treatment without having to wait for an appointment. Patients can consult a physician at comfort of their home. This tool aims to make healthcare more accessible, cost-effective, increase patient engagement. This bill deserves all our support because the toll of cancer is felt not only by the patients, but by those who know and care for them. Honorable Speaker, I support.
Honorable Amisi.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to this very important bill. And first of all, allow me to express my praise for Honorable Wanga. For she has always had very progressive bills in this parliament, and this is one of them. And especially at this point in time when we are tackling a global scourge of corona, I think and I believe that cancer is even more devastating and deadly than corona. Most of us have been able to even escape by social distancing, sanitizing, but you can't do the same for cancer. I mean, some you may social distance, you may avoid going to mosque, churches, but at the end of the day, if you have cancer, you have it. So I think this is more devastating, and most of our focus as a nation must be geared towards prevention and control. Earlier on last year, our colleagues here succumbed to this disease, and I had a chance to visit him in France, Paris. And two things he told me. One, that if he were in Kenya at that point in time, when he sought medication in France, he would have died a long time ago. Because here in Kenya, they were treating him for liver and kidney problems. Little do they know that those were earlier signs of cancer. So if there were proper prevention, maybe, just maybe, we could have saved our brother. But because of this, even lack of knowledge and technical know-how on how to prevent and control, and even other suggestions that may look weird in the eyes of Kenyans. For example, the other thing he mentioned to me, he used to call me my brother from Starehe, that whether I survive or not, please go back and legislate on possibility of legalizing cannabis sativa. Most people look at it as a quite weird suggestion in a democracy like Kenya, in a social setup like Kenya. But so be it, if that is what is going to prevent and minimize the devastating effect of this scourge. And this is some of the suggestions that people laugh at, people rebuke us on it. But cannabis sativa is one of the things that have been, in most progressive countries, it has been used as a weapon to try and see if it will be used to mitigate the effects or lack of thereof to control this malady. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to actually start looking at ways and means. Every country now is on its own. Every country is finding out ways and means of controlling this global scourge. And as a country, we cannot be left just as contributors. Most of us members of parliament, we contribute on a daily basis to cases of cancer patients, either locally or those seeking medication abroad. And we cannot just be left as contributors after the effects. We need to look at how we can look at the prevention, and if it means going even to our traditional way of treating our patients. Traditional medicine, it has proved to work in some cases. Let us look. I do not believe that the European countries must always be the source of solution to our medical field. Most likely, whatever they come up, it is gotten from Africa. So we have a solution. We are the solution. We have the solution. Let us not laugh at it. Let us not think that globalization has taken over our traditional African medication. Let us go back to our roots. Let us go back to our traditional way of treating patients. Let us invest more in research. Let us look at scientific trees that exist, scientific plants that exist in our traditional setup. Why are our forefathers treating? Why are our forefathers? There was no medication. There were no high technology hospitals. But people were surviving. People were living 100 years. In these modern days, you can barely find a person.
Very well. Your space is gone. Let's have Honorable Odiabo Akop.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And Mr. Speaker, I wish to support the bill Mr. Speaker, it's an important amendment to the Cancer Act. Mr. Speaker, almost all of us either know or have dealt with a person who has cancer. I took care of my uncle, who unfortunately never got married and didn't have children. So I actually undertook palliative care for him until he died. He almost died in my house. And Mr. Speaker, through that process, I actually know the loopholes that are there in terms of lack of palliative care, expenses entailing cancer, and lack of facilities, especially at the county levels. Let me laud Honorable Beth Mugo, who initiated the first bill, especially after going through cancer herself, and Honorable Abdullahi Ali, that has brought one that is seeking to step down services to the county, and Honorable Gladys, who is actually moving us to the digital era and acknowledging the realities that we are facing in the digital era. Mr. Speaker, we know that even in this House, we have lost our own colleagues, Honorable Joyce Laboso and Honorable Ken Okoth, to cancer. Mr. Speaker, you know I was very good friends with both of them. And Mr. Speaker, especially Honorable Joyce, and I know the challenges she used to face even after she went into the first remission. I was also very good friends with the late Mary Onyango, who was a champion, and I also know what challenges she went through up to her last minute, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, it is therefore important, especially in this eras as we've been taught by COVID-19, that we must find every way of ensuring that our people are assisted. And that is why the introduction of e-health and telemedicine into the amendment is actually very, very significant. And it will enable even those of us who may seek experts abroad and who cannot get the attention from abroad, that they would be able to get that sort of assistance. Mr. Speaker, I'm also very happy that the bill seeks the training of oncologists, even at the county level. And what I would want to encourage, because I know most of us as members of parliament come up with very, very good bills. But in Kenya, the challenge is actually the implementation. We say it year in, year out. And I want to encourage our governors and our senators, instead of fighting, over things that really don't help Kenyans, especially now, if they could focus on things that truly matter. Almost every 1 hour there is somebody, or even less, probably dying of cancer. I don't have the correct statistics, but we know so many people in my own constituency in Suba North. There are so many people that are dying with cancer. And yet, sometimes, we can prolong their life by years, because cancer in itself does not necessarily have to be a death sentence. People can live longer. And I know somebody who was actually told to go back home from hospital and sort of given a death sentence. But when they got the support they needed, they actually lived an extra 20 years. And so it is what we do as a country to ensure access to the support that the patients need is what is important. And I want to also agree with Honorable Amisi about the issue of herbal medicine, that we have not explored it duly. We know, for instance, that the rosy periwinkle of Madagascar has actually increased children's chances of surviving leukemia. And in Kenya, I'm sure that if we use a lot of herbal medicines, we have probably lying somewhere where we have not explored the cure for cancer, not just medicine that will prolong life, but the cure. So, Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to support.
Let's have Honorable Denita.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to also contribute and support these amendments to this issue, Mr. Speaker, that is eating our country, that is cancer. Mr. Speaker, sir, just like many of my colleagues in this House, I also have a case As we speak, Mr. Speaker, of a young girl in my village called Baby Sharon, Mr. Speaker, who is actually at Kenyatta Hospital trying to, take care of a cancer situation, Mr. Speaker. And we are busy, Mr. Speaker, as usual. As Kenyans, we are busy fundraising and supporting through a Harambe to really ensure that her eye is taken care of at the Kenyatta Hospital, Mr. Speaker. And I wish her quick recovery, Baby Sharon. Mr. Speaker, sir, Honorable Wanga has actually brought in this bill that is basically seeking to help our people. We have thousands and thousands of Kenyans in the rural areas, in our villages, Mr. Speaker, who do not know where to go. The distance itself, Mr. Speaker, from the village where I come from, Ntimaru, for example, to Nairobi. Because, Mr. Speaker, ideally, most of our national cancer centers are situated in towns. They are in Nairobi, the capital city. And, Mr. Speaker, you can imagine somebody who has to travel all the way to come and seek medication in Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, the roads infrastructure is terrible. They cannot reach here. Mr. Speaker, this, for me, is a bill that is seeking to give, a very big relief to our people. Because, Mr. Speaker, sir, the bill, if implemented, Mr. Speaker, is going to ensure that people in our rural areas where we come from, Mr. Speaker, are able to actually, get the information that they deserve and get the treatment, Mr. Speaker, right at their own households, at their own counties, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, a bill that seeks to ensure that the whole issue of ensuring that healthcare, which is devolved in this country, Mr. Speaker, continues to benefit people at the rural areas where they are based. Mr. Speaker, that is a bill that deserves our attention and our support. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have seen many cases of persons with disabilities. Many people who are disabled in this country, Mr. Speaker, are a result of cancer. You have seen so many who are amputated, Mr. Speaker, persons who are using, amputees. They are a result of cancer, Mr. Speaker, and there are many in this country. So persons with disabilities become disabled because of cancer. It is a fact in this country, and statistics of such people, Mr. Speaker, are many. Mr. Speaker, sir, the bill that is seeking to really ensure that through what we are calling telemedicine, Mr. Speaker, the use of, internet or e-learning or e-whatever, Mr. Speaker, is able to ensure that our people, whenever they feel like they need detection or they need information or they need, this is an improved way of ensuring, Mr. Speaker, that our people get that information without having to struggle coming all the way to Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, I come from the county of Migori. And, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, Migori has not been making good news of late. And, Mr. Speaker, before I reach Migori, I pass by about 8 counties. Before I reach Migori, Isebania-Sirare border. We border Mara to the Tanzania on the other side. And, Mr. Speaker, whenever I am on the way, I tend to look at counties like Narok, Bomet, Kisii, before I reach Migori, Mr. Speaker, and we see all these huge tracts of land that are lying idle. Mr. Speaker, our governors must transform and translate the huge pieces of lands that they have to ensuring, Mr. Speaker, that they set up even rehabilitation centers for cancer, Mr. Speaker, even within their own pieces of land. Our governors, Mr. Speaker, must take serious the issue of cancer. The bill is seeking basically, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that there's so many few oncologists, because ideally, Mr. Speaker, you have seen, our research in Kenya just shows that we have less than 15 oncologists in this country. Over a population of how many people? 43 million. Mr. Speaker, that is quite a low number. And I'm happy that the bill is seeking to ensure that these kind of oncologists are actually, expanded and they are trained. We have not done well, Mr. Speaker, as a parliament to ensure that we raise awareness in rural areas about the issue of cancer. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, you find that people come to Nairobi when they're at level 4, coming all the way from Isebania to look to Kenyatta Hospital or to Texas Cancer. And that is why you are seeing so many quacks. In fact, there are quacks, Mr. Speaker, in this country who are actually fleecing people.
Very well, very well. Honorable Nyenze, Edith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, let me support my colleague, Honorable Gladys Wanga, for bring up this motion. It's a very important motion, and as I say this, I don't want to go into details because it might make me emotional. Cancer should actually have been declared by the government as a national disaster, because if the government does that, then I think it will give the government will give it more attention, because it's very, very disturbing when, especially we see even members who even have the insurance, we even see them living because of, dying because of cancer. And this is even after going to very good hospitals like Nairobi Hospital, Aga Khan Hospital, which are the best in Kenya, and even in to some other hospitals. Then one goes with a problem, and instead of the hospital diagnosing the problem from the onset to know that this one is actually the onset of cancer, they keep on treating the wrong thing. And then eventually, when it is at a very advanced stage, they now declare that this person has cancer. And then from that time, they start telling you how many years you are going to live. And this is very shocking, because from the word go, you went to the hospital, they did not diagnose in the right way. So I'm sure if the government declares cancer as a national disaster, the government at the hospitals will look at it, the doctors will look at it more keenly, and will even invest more in research, so that we don't see so many people going to abroad for treatment. And these are just a small fraction of those ones who can afford. And even when they do so when these cancers are at a very advanced stage, and there is nothing actually which can be done. So if the government could declare it as a national disaster, we could even put more funds, whereby we'll have more research and even have more oncologists trained, because they are very few, and the people who have the cancers are so many. So the people are actually dying from this disease, left and right, as even my colleagues have said. And there is a lot of hopelessness in the country, especially on the treatment of cancer. Sometimes you are told, they say don't take meat, don't smoke, don't take alcohol, do safe sex. And there are so many things which are said about cancer. But then you see someone from the village suffering from the same disease. They have not been taking meat. They do not need to do exercise, because they go to the shamba every day. They are digging. They are very active. So you wonder now, which meat are they talking about? Which exercise are they talking about? This someone has cancer. They've never smoked. They've never taken beer. So now, what are you telling us? So that's why I'm saying the government should actually declare cancer as a national disaster, so that more seriousness is put into this disease. You see, some people I've even met friends from America and from other countries, where their health systems are very advanced. They were diagnosed with cancer at a very high stage, and these people have been treated. They are now free from cancer. But here, we are going to the highest hospital, yet they are not even diagnosing the cancer at the onset. So, Mr. Speaker, that's why I'm saying the government should be more keen on this disease. With that, I support my colleague. Thank you, Gladys Wanga.
Honorable Oduol Obaka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I also would like to add my voice to this. Cancer, we all know, is a deadly disease. My own mother passed away because of it, and I'm aware how terrible it can be to a family, because cancer can take a long time on you as you suffer, and the family is traumatized. It's extremely very expensive. At the end of it, you pass on. It's a disease that must be declared a national disaster, as my colleague, Mrs. Nyenze, has said. Just like HIV and AIDS was declared a national disaster by the late President Moi in 1999. At that time, HIV, after it had been declared a national disaster, there was a huge campaign against it, and to sensitize people about the one need in order to prevent it. We have said over and over again in this House that cancer needs to be controlled and properly treated in this country. The laws are there, but we don't implement. This is a good law that is coming up with Honorable Wanga to ensure that it is better prevented. Prevention is better than cure, but prevention comes when people have information. So we need to highlight information about cancer, just like we know a lot about HIV and AIDS. It was everywhere in the newspapers, on television, on radio, and in meetings, in barazas. It was really, people were highly sensitized everywhere, every now and again. I don't see that with cancer. And that's what I would like to encourage, that as we pass laws here, we must make sure that implementation is also very practical and that it is constant. We need to highlight that there is cancer and that we need to go for checkup almost every year. I know it is very expensive. Many people cannot afford to go for checkups on an annual basis, but it is something that we need to be doing, and we need to make our hospitals a little cheaper for our people. Many people fear to go to hospital even for other diseases that are not even cancer, because they fear the expenses that is incurred. So when it comes to cancer, the fear is higher because it is something we will be going to see the doctor all the time, constantly, and it's taking a lot of funds from them. So we need to ensure that our hospitals are cheaper, they are accessible to our people, that the people can be treated fairly and feel comfortable to visit the hospitals. As it has already been highlighted a lot, the hospitals we do have don't have experts, and these diseases are also in the rural areas. The oncologists that we are talking about are too few to address the issue countrywide. You find them concentrated in Nairobi. In Siaya, where I come from, you don't find an oncologist. Tell me how a man or a woman of 70 years old suffering from cancer will find money to come to Nairobi, look for money for treatment, look for money to stay in Nairobi, and all that. It's too expensive. That's why we need more training for oncologists to be spread around, to be posted in other counties, so that every county or every sub-county has an oncologist, an expert. Telemedicine has become the latest, just like other digital methods of learning or communication. I think let that be encouraged. I just want to support this bill because it touches the hearts of everybody, because every family in this country has seen the devastation that cancer brings to that family. Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa Wanga, for this very wonderful and very timely bill that comes at a time when we are devastated with many complications arising from difficult diseases in the sense that they are difficult to treat, they are time-taking, they are lifelong, and they are extremely expensive and devastates a family. I support this bill.
Honorable Janet, member for Trans Nzoia.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa nafasi hii kuchangia kwa mswada huu kwa ajili ya magonjwa ya saratani katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka nianze na kumshukuru Mheshimiwa Gladys Wanga kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Gladys Wanga kwa bunge iliyopita, bunge la 11, Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Wanga alikuja na mjadala kuhusu mambo ya saratani katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Na ninamshukuru kwa sababu hivi leo ameleta mswada katika bunge hili, na ndiposa sisi kama wabunge tupate nafasi ya kuchangia. Mheshimiwa Spika, ugonjwa wa saratani vile wenzangu wamesema mahali hapa ni ugonjwa mbaya sana Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu ukikuja kwa eneo langu la Trans Nzoia unaona kwamba tumepoteza watu wengi sana. Ja kushangaza Mheshimiwa Spika, juzi nilikuwa nimempoteza mpigaji kura wangu mmoja, na tukawa na mgonjwa mahali hapo Mheshimiwa Spika aliyeamuka kusema jinsi mwenzake alipopoteza maisha yake, na akasema yeye pia ako na ugonjwa wa saratani. Cha kushangaza alisema hatuwezi kupata mashini ya kupima hii ugonjwa katika eneo hilo langu la Trans Nzoia Mheshimiwa Spika, ili namlazimu lazima akuje katika hospitali ya Kakani Mheshimiwa Spika. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, iwapo hii mswada tunajadiliana mahali hapa itatekelezwa, Mheshimiwa Spika, itakuwa imeokoa watu wengi sana. Kwa sababu hii ugonjwa wa saratani unakuja na masaibu kadhaa. Kwa sababu unaweza kuona kwamba kuna mtu anagonjeka ugonjwa wa saratani, huenda ikawa ni wa damu, mwingine wanasema kwamba imekuja kwa koo, mwingine wanasema kwamba imekuja kwa matiti Mheshimiwa Spika. Na unaona vile wenzangu wamesema hapa, inakuwa vigumu sana mtu kusema kwamba mimi ninaugua hii ugonjwa mpaka aende apimwe Mheshimiwa Spika. Na iwapo hatuna hizo vipimo katika sehemu zetu, unaona kwamba tunapoteza maisha ya watu wengi. Mheshimiwa Spika, nilitembelea hospitali hapa inaitwa Texas Center hapa Nairobi. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukifika mahali hapo utaona kwamba wewe ukitembea umshukuru Mungu. Wenzetu kule nje wanaumia sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimemsikia Mheshimiwa Caleb akisema iwapo tunaweza kuwa na dawa ya kienyeji. Kwangu Mheshimiwa naona ni vizuri sana, lakini lazima tukue na mahabara zetu za kupima hii dawa inaenda kutibu nini. Kwa sababu wengi wale wanatumia dawa ya kienyeji huko nje, wengi wanasema wenda ikawa inaponyesha mambo ya ukimwi, wengine wanasema hapana, wenda ikawa hii inatusaidia kutupatia nguvu, wengine wanaweza kusema iko hivi na hivi. Lakini mimi kwangu naona kwamba tukiwa na mahabara zile zinaweza kupima hizo dawa Mheshimiwa Spika, na hizo dawa siende zisaidie watu kule nje, itakuwa ni vizuri. Na iwapo hatujafunza hao watu jinsi ya kutumia, ama iwapo hawajapata ujumbe Mheshimiwa Spika, tena inakuwa kwamba ni changamoto. Kwa sababu changamoto lile tunapitia saa hizi itakuwa pia ni changamoto kwa watu wetu kule nje. Nimesikia wenzangu hapa pia waseme ni changamoto katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Hiyo ni sawa Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini tusipotekeleza haya hayatakuwa na manufaa. Hayatasaidia hao wagonjwa wale wameathirika na hii ugonjwa wa saratani Mheshimiwa Spika. Sasa mimi naona ni vyema tunapojadiliana katika bunge hili uacha itekelezwe jinsi tunavyosema kama viongozi katika bunge hili Mheshimiwa Spika, na hiyo itakuwa ni jambo mzuri sana. Na ninamshukuru tena Mheshimiwa Wanga, asante kuleta mswada huu katika bunge hili, na ndiposa sisi kama wabunge pia tujadiliane. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa nafasi.
Okay, there being no other interest.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I'm hoping this ash has having an effect on you, Dharma.
Is anyone there? Please help me!
Ashok! What is happening to me, Ashok? Where is this sound coming from? This unbearable noise, Ashok!
Their demand, they will definitely kill him. And we wanted from the very beginning that Ashok be removed.
Mother, I am the Regent King!
This attitude of yours will make you ineligible to stay as a Regent King, Sushi.
Next on
Unapata wanawake wengi kwa sasa ni ngumu sana kupata makazi ama ni ngumu sana kuruhusiwa kwenda kufanya makazi. Mwanamke akiolewa unapata ni ngumu sana mume wake kumpa ruhusa aende akafanye kazi. Kisa na sababu ni nini?
Mwanamke wa Kiislamu anapaswa kuwa na elimu ya dini na ya dunia. Kama alivyosema Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, talabul ilm faridhatun ala kulli muslim. Yani kumaanisha kutafuta elimu ni lazima kwa kila binadamu ambaye ni Muislamu.
Next on
Ethiopia is here. That baby is annoying and she just can't stop.
Natafuta job.
Job gani?
Yoyote as long as nalipwa.
So what would be your expectations if I hired you?
Me and your family are not in the same social class.
Well, you're a pilot.
Oh, really? Your mom is very schemy.
How so?
What do you think, Jazz? It's Nancy we're talking about.
Hi.
I mean,